Hey, welcome back everyone. Hope everybody's finding the content on this channel useful. And it's purely for the technicians out there in the world. Just trying to help out a little bit anywhere I can. If you do find the content useful, please give us a thumbs up and maybe leave a comment. That'll definitely help get that content out there. So on our last video, we put out some information on micrometers and how to use them. I want to introduce a micrometer that measures down to a finer measurement. So I still have a 0 to 1 inch micrometer here, and it still operates the same way as the one we had in the last video does, except I have one more scale here, and this is called the vernier scale. This allows us to measure down to a 10,000ths increment, which is where most of your modern day engine measurements are going to be, is down to the 10,000ths mark. Transmissions as well in a lot of cases. So 4 places to the right of the decimal point, 10,000ths of an inch increments. Also, this little micrometer here has a little bit different style clutch on it. It has a friction clutch instead of a ratcheting style clutch. And when you're ordering mics or you're looking for mics, always make sure you look at the details on what you're ordering. I ordered this one for me a while back, and you can see here, it actually works really well. I like it, but sometimes I don't like it. And let me show you why. As you can see here and here, it's rounded, it's convex, where the other ones we've been using are flat. This does allow me a smaller contact pattern when I'm taking a measurement. And you can see it also has the vernier scale on it here with a ratcheting style clutch. What I don't like about this is, yes, I can get a finer measurement with it, but if you're measuring something that's round, as you're trying to measure it, the piece that you're measuring tries to rotate. So always, look at what you're ordering and make sure you get what you want. Many options out there for mics and any kind of precision measuring tools. So today we're actually going to use a split ball gauge, something very similar to this. You can find all different brands and manufacturers of split ball gauges or ball gauges out there. And we're going to take a measurement of a valve guide and then a measurement of a valve stem and calculate our difference so we can get our stem to guide clearance issue, see if we have a damaged valve guide or if everything's in good shape. So how these operate is you tighten the little knob here. You can see it brings that piece on the end down in between the split balls and starts to spread them open so we can measure the inside surface of something very small, inside diameter of something very small. Now, you can get these just about anywhere. This is a little $25 set off of Amazon. If you wanted a set of Starrett split balls, they're going to run you about 600 bucks for a new set. Now, unless you're building engines professionally, do you need something that expensive? No, not really. Would I use something this inexpensive over and over again? No, I wouldn't do that either. I'd probably want to reinvest in something that's a little bit better quality. For our purposes here, it works. Then if you wanted to get really serious, you can get very tiny micrometers called small bore gauges that are thousands of dollars that do some really precision measurements. I guess it really depends on what your application there is what you need. So we're going to come over here to our cylinder head and we're going to measure this diameter of this valve stem here. I'm going to try to put my split ball gauge down into the center of the valve stem. So my valve stem, however long it is, I'm going to try to get approximately into the center of that valve stem. And you can measure that to figure out where the center of your valve stem is. And I may take, a couple of measurements to see if I have any taper in this valve stem too. If it's worn out, the valve's been rocking back and forth, it's possible I could have some damage there. But if you can hear that, I have movement between my split ball and my valve guide. So what I want to do is just slowly tighten my knob on the top of the tool. And I want to continue to check for free play, because when the free play goes away, that's where I'm going to stop and remove the split ball gauge and take my measurement. So as I'm checking for free play here, we continue to tighten this up a little bit. Just small increments at a time. I'm not in a hurry. I want to make sure I get an accurate measurement. Still got some free play there. So I'm still working towards taking all that free play away. There's a very fine line between setting this gauge up correctly and over tightening the gauge. So I'm going to try to demonstrate both for you. Still have some free play. My free play is gone. And when I let this gauge go, it does fall. I don't want this gauge to hold itself in place. That means I've over tightened it. I don't feel any free play at all, but if I make just a slight adjustment, now that gauge did not fall inside that dial or inside that valve guide. You didn't see it drop. That is too tight. So I'm gonna back it off. My free play's back. So let me readjust. Get rid of my free play. Still getting rid of my play here. Still got a little bit of play. Almost getting close. And over tightened it again. It's holding itself in place. Takes a little practice using split balls to get the feel for where you really need to be. Okay, my free play is gone, and it dropped all the way through my valve guide. So to make sure that I didn't lose my adjustment there, I'm going to set this up once again. In other words, the handle on my split ball gauge will go all the way through the valve guide as well, as the valve guide's pretty decent size on this engine, on this GM engine that we're working on. Okay, no free play, nothing. I feel a very, very, very slight drag on the split ball. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove it from the valve guide. I'm gonna try not to disturb this in any way because there's no locks or anything on here that's gonna keep my adjustment for me, unlike a micrometer. Okay, so I'm gonna take my 1 to 2 inch mic, or my 0 to 1 inch mic here with the friction style clutch. And let's go ahead and get on this split ball gauge here and see where we're at. Okay, my clutch is turning and the barrel of my micrometer is not turning. I'm going to go ahead and measure a couple times, since the split ball gauge is kind of convex on the end. It's going to make a little bit of a difference. You know, if it tries to rotate on me, my measurement may not come out correctly, so I want to make sure I get up on the highest parts of the convex on both sides of that split ball gauge. So just to give you a good visual on that, you can see that it's kind of convex in shape. So if I get off to one side of it, my measurement could turn out too small. So I want to get on the highest parts of the convex on both sides of that split ball gauge. So let me take a look at my measurement here. And of course I locked my mic in place so I didn't lose my measurement. So we're going to break this measurement down here, if I can manipulate this in front of the camera where everybody can see it. We're going to start right here on the mic. You can see there's clearly a 3 right there. But I don't see any of these vertical lines, these 25 thousandths of an inch lines past the 3. So I'm going to look over here on this side of my mic, and I'm kind of in between that mark, which 10's down here. It's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So I'm in between 14 and 15, so I need to take my final measurement, which is going to be adding that 10 thousandths increment to 0.314, and then we're going to have that fourth digit there. And looking at this, I'm looking for the line that is lined up, the line here that is lined up with the line here. So let's just take a second and go all the way around. There's a 5 right there, lined up right there. So how we're going to write that down and write it out so I don't forget it. 0.3, because it's a 0 to 1 inch mic. We're in between the 14 and the 15, so we're over 14, but we're not 15. That'd be thousandths of an inch. So 0.314, 5. So let me write that number down so I don't forget it. So we're going to be 0.314, 5. 314 thousandths of an inch and 5 10,000ths is the measurement on that particular valve guide. So let's measure our valve stem. I'm going to see where we're at. And that way we can calculate our clearance. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock my micrometer and open it up just a little bit. Obviously the valve stem should be smaller, right? I don't think we can get a oversized valve in a standard size valve guide. I don't know how that would work, but I would probably go ahead and just place your valve in your cylinder head, because I need to get a sense for exactly where that valve rides in that guide as it's going up and down. So I probably am going to go ahead and measure that valve stem in a couple of places, make sure it's true throughout the entire surface of that valve stem where it rides in the head. And you know, typically valves, especially on an engine that's been used, it's going to have some markings on it where you're going to be able to see where it rides in the valve guide. And if we look on this valve, now I don't know how many miles this engine had on it, or it's a training engine. I'm sure it looks like it's been used looking at the pistons in this engine block, but I can see some markings on the valve here. So we're probably going to measure right here where that mark is at and get a feel for the diameter of that valve stem, see if we can calculate our clearance. Okay, so looking at my valve, my mark is right here. So let's go ahead and get on the valve stem. Do that one more time here. Remember, always use your clutch. Always use your clutch. So my clutch is rotating. I rotated it several times. I didn't see any additional movement in the barrel of my mic. Go ahead and remove that from my valve stem. And let's see what our valve stem measured. So let's take a look here. Again, you see the 3 here, but there's no 25 thousandths vertical lines past the 3. So we're going to look here. So there's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're in between the 13 and 14. So we're in between 313 thousandths and 314 thousandths. Definitely smaller than our valve guide, which is what we'd expect. But since we're neither 313 or 314, now I've got to add that 10 thousandth increment. And right here, you see the 7 is lined right up, right there. So my measurement would be 3, 313 thousandths and 7 ten-thousandths. So let's write that down. So my measurement's going to be 313 thousandths and 7 ten-thousandths of an inch. So what would that make my valve stem to guide clearance? That's 313 thousandths and 7 ten-thousandths of an inch. Well, over 313 thousandths and 7 ten-thousandths of an inch plus 3 ten-thousandths takes us to 314. Then there's an additional 5 ten-thousandths, so 3 thousandths plus 5 ten-thousandths, that gives us 8 ten-thousandths of an inch valve stem to guide clearance. My valve stem to guide clearance for this particular valve and guide that we measured on this engine would be 0.0008 thousandths. And that's how you would calculate your valve stem to guide clearance. Now, split ball gauges and engine measurements and things like this, it's not something that we do a whole lot of anymore, especially out in the shop. I still work in a car dealership to this day. And typically if we, tear an engine down, we determine it's bad, it gets replaced. But it's important to know how to take these measurements. It helps us sharpen our minds and helps us to understand how things work. If I had excessive valve stem to guide clearance, it's going to cause my engine to run poorly and not have as much power as it should. It's also going to cause oil consumption. I need to be able to know how to diagnose these things. I need to be able to know how to take these measurements. Many, many years ago, we used to have to take these measurements, and we actually did do valve jobs and rework these cylinder heads on a dealership level. All things in the past. However, I still like to know how things work, and I think everybody should. And there may come a time where you've got if you're working in a new car dealership and you've got a vehicle still under warranty, the manufacturer may want some of these measurements before they authorize an engine replacement. So it's always good to know these things. Hey, listen, I hope this helped out, and I appreciate everybody that's subscribed to the channel. And please continue to like and subscribe and leave us some comments. And if there's anything that you want to see, let us know. We'll see if we can make it happen. Thanks.